You had 5 things to do on Monday and only got 2 done by Friday. The other 3 just slid. You keep asking for more time, but the clock can't hear you. It doesn't negotiate.
Russ, you have known me a lifetime, right? And you know I'm a list guy, right? If I put it on my list, theoretically it gets done. The problem is every Monday I come in, I make a list, and unfortunately, I got to drag stuff from last week to put it on my list. So when I start my list on Monday, I'm already behind, right? I feel like my time is like the sand in an hourglass. It is running out.
Yeah. Well, look, you're not different than most people. Like everybody's got lists on Monday morning. The average guy's got 5 things on his list, 5 real things to do that he's got to get done. And by the end of the week, by Friday, you finish 2, maybe 1.5, and then the rest gets carried over until the next week. The problem is those other 3 things they don't die. They just slide. They slide from one week to the next, and you have a pile that just goes from one week to the next, to the next, to the next. And you've been telling yourself the same story for months, probably years. Look, I'm going to get it done when there's a little bit of time, or I'll figure it out. I'll make it happen. The problem is, making it happen rarely does. And the worst part about it is you feel like somebody stole your time, but hell, nobody stole your time. Nobody held a gun to your calendar. You just yielded it. You just said, I'm not going to get it done. And here's the part that nobody's telling you, right? The weeks are not going to start feeling longer. They're going to keep getting shorter, and not because you're imagining it, because the world underneath your feet is accelerating, and the margin you have to act is getting thinner and thinner.
Things aren't slowing down.
Things aren't slowing down. They are speeding up.
All right. Well, welcome back. This is the Second Half Man Show. I'm 601. I'm here with the founder of Second Half Man, Russ Borden. We thank you for watching. Today's show is about element 1 of the Sovereign's Code, yield no time. If you find the topic to be interesting, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can see all of our shows. They drop every Tuesday. With that, let's get back to the subject. So, time's running out. I keep thinking things are going to slow down. Eventually, I'll be able to catch up on my list. What do you say?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. At our age, time is not slowing down. As a matter of fact, the perception of time is actually getting faster the older that we get. Time genuinely accelerates as we get older. So neuroscientists call this the proportional theory, right? So when you're 50 years old, 1 year out of your life amounts to only 2% of your entire life. When you were a kid, when you were 10, that same year was worth 10% of your life. So much bigger that the same 365 days of the year occupy a much smaller fraction of your total experience every year. And every year that clock doesn't change, your relationship to it does. And that shift every year is invisible until you feel it so much you can't ignore it anymore. Time is going faster, or at least it seems like it.
Due to my age, right? Older I get, it seems the faster it's going, right? It just becomes a smaller portion of my overall life is what it is.
Exactly. And, that's not the only thing that is speeding up in your life these days. So last November, McKinsey came out with a published report that measured something that, people felt, but they really couldn't name. So 57% of all U.S. work hours are automatable with technology that exists right now. That's not coming by 2030, not going to be here with future breakthroughs. That's right now. In 2023, that estimate was 30%. That's nearly doubled in just 24 months. And when I said this was a McKinsey November report, do you know what's happened in the last 5 months since then? Things have gone absolutely crazy. So the smartest expert in your field is not being replaced. The hours that are surrounding his expertise are being compressed. And when that happens, it makes us all feel like all time is being compressed. And what that means is, yeah, Russell, what does that mean is hours are being compressed? And think about that. If it took an expert 35 hours to wrestle with a problem and really come up with an answer, and then you broke it down and huge portions of those 34 hours were doing research, setting it all up in tables so that we could look at it objectively in an organized manner, doing all the things that you had to do to get to the point where the expert could look at it and say, oh, I'm connecting all the dots and this is how we're going, right? If you're connecting all the dots and that only takes 5 hours out of that 35 hours, that 30 hours, when it can be done by the machines in 30 minutes, that's real time compression. And every single one of us are feeling that these days.
But you're not making me feel better. I hope you know that. The reason I say that is because your explanation is something we've talked about, right? The elimination of tasks. Yep. So you're telling me that work that I do or work that I did has already been taken over, which I see at my workplace, at my business. But I still have the same problem with time, man. It's still, I guess I'm not compressing. I'm not realizing actually what's happening. That must be the case, right? Elimination of tasks, and I still have no time.
Still have no time because either we're not taking advantage of all the things that we need to be taking advantage of, or you're that expert that's still doing all those hours worth of work to be able to get to that 5 hours that makes you the expert. So yeah, it's a big deal. You know, your competition back in 2023, I say your competition because somebody's using all these tools, but AI systems could solve 4.4% of real world software engineering problems in the industry in the standard benchmark. I'm using this as a benchmark so you can see how fast this is going. By 2024, that number was 71.7%. It jumped from 4.4% to being able to do 71.7% of all that work. And by April 2026, the four of the frontier models right now are scoring above 77% and approaching performance ceiling of the best human engineers alive. And it's not a trend. This is a capacity that went from useless to expert level in 3 years. And whatever your field's version of that benchmark is, the curve looks the same. That's why everything just feels like it's taking off and going crazy. So yeah, that's
so all these things are happening, right? I'm on this hamster's wheel and I'm working. All these things are happening. Technology's changing, underneath my feet, right? But I'm absorbing it. I'm using it. I'm not realizing that I'm just spending more time, right? Even though I can do more, I'm still spending my more time. Historically, the way things used to go is everything was kind of like an ebb and flow, right? There would be these times where a lot would have to get done, and you'd hustle, you'd do it, and then it would happen, right? And then things would slow down.
Yeah.
So, we grew up. I grew up that way in my professional career. I still hope that's the way it is. I still feel like the way it is, but you're making me feel that that's I don't know.
Dude, you can hope and feel all you want, but that doesn't make it true.
So if my assumption is, hey, I'm going to work. I'll take care of the other stuff when things slow down. To me, that sounds a little bit like a trap, maybe.
That is the trap. Look, I'll get to it when things settle down. That's the most expensive sentence a man over 45 can say. Because things are not going to settle down. Not now, not anymore. That settling is over. The rate of change is not a wave that crests and recedes, right?
Yeah.
It's a tide that only rises. Things are just going absolutely crazy when it comes to this. You know, the other part about that is in you're big on this, but I'm gonna fight you on it before you ever even say you all just say, yeah, it all comes down to laziness. Well, the trap is not laziness. You know, you, like everybody else that's listening to this, probably works harder than anybody else around you. And the trap is the belief that what you can do versus what everybody else can do or is doing is what's going to keep you safe, right? Mm-hmm. And the trap is the belief that pace of change at some point is going to give you a window, a place to where you can be stable and catch everything up that you've just been grinding on that's going to be able to do that. And if you just get through this quarter, you're going to be okay. You clear this project off your desk and you're going to be all right. I finished this obligation and I'm going to be all right. I'll have this space to kind of think clearly, catch up with what's going on and do that. Problem is that stability window that it's closed already. It's done. There's no more, right? You're making decisions inside of the compression now, whether you acknowledge it or not. The man who waits for calm seas is yielding his time to a weather pattern that no longer exists.
So there seems to be a little bit of pressure about managing my time, right? I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. You know, I'm sure other people have done it, right? Other people have figured out whatever that key is to managing their time, right?
Well, everybody's heard this. Look, so you know, one of the most famous things around this topic is Steve Jobs and his famous Stanford commencement speech that he made in 2005. And the biggest line that came out of that was, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool that I've ever encountered to help make the big choices in life. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's impactful. That's impactful, right?
It's impactful. Okay.
Yes,
but as impactful as it is, you heard it, you nodded,
right.
You agreed.
Yep.
You might even have shared it with somebody. And then you went back to your same calendar and the same meetings and the same drift that you've always had, right? Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy about that story? The craziest part about that story, the part that nobody actually talks about is, you know, Jobs had been diagnosed with his pancreatic cancer in 2003. And he had surgery in 2004. And he gave that speech in 2005. And he told everybody, you know, this great thing that everybody talks about. But then he went back to Apple and he built the iPhone, the iPad, the App Store, the iCloud. He did all of that in the next 6 years before he passed away. He did more work and got more things done in 6 years than most executives do in 30. And he didn't just talk about time. He operated inside of it. Every product decision, every meeting that he refused to have, every project that he killed was filtered through this clock that he could hear ticking. Heck, that's why he even wore the same stupid black turtleneck and pair of jeans every day, because he didn't want to have to make a decision about what he was going to wear that day. Everything was put toward the most functional use of time he could have. And, you know, that's where element one of our sovereign's code is coming from. It's yield no time. It becomes the difference between hearing a speech and living a life. That's it. You know, sovereign man treats time as his most valuable, non-renewable asset. It's allocating it with ruthless intent only to that which serves his higher purpose, his highest purpose. That's it, right? So
non-renewable asset. Got it. Yep.
Non-renewable assets, and Steve Jobs, he didn't have a creed. He had a diagnosis, but you don't need a diagnosis to operate with the same clarity. You need to make a decision. You need to have a daily practice that forces you to confront what you're doing with the hours that you have left. Not someday, but this morning, tomorrow morning, every morning.
So creating a sense of urgency, I guess, within oneself and managing all those things that are happening around you. I guess if you're like Steve Jobs, you're saying, hey, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, but I am going to concentrate on this and I am going to concentrate on that, which to me seems to be the toughest part of what you're describing, right? I mean, our entire lives have been work, 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 work. And then when you get to retirement, boop, you're going to take it easy, right? So we're,
Yeah,
we're talking about reprogramming, basically, right? We have to reprogram almost.
I guess. We haven't really used the word reprogramming, but yeah, I think that's exactly, what's happening with our entire lives on a number of different levels.
So we've talked about this. So if yield no time is the foundation of building your sovereignty, right? Give me a little bit more on how yield no time is my sovereign solution there.
Oh, it's everything. Taking back time, taking back your own time, making your own decisions, deciding what it is that you will do and won't do. And I know everybody's going to say, I have a boss. I can't just say what I'm going to do. Yes, that's true. But how much time do you spend in the pursuit of your job that has absolutely nothing to with getting done what needs to get done? And if all you did was concentrate on what needed to get done, then all that other crap would go by the wayside and you'd have a lot more time on your hands. You spend less time around the water cooler in the lunchroom or talking about fishing last weekend or can't wait for the next weekend. Just go to work. But, that's really what this is about, is owning your calendar, owning your time. And that's the key at this day and age to, the time's going to get compressed. Technology is going to happen that we can't stop. All of this stuff is happening, but none of it takes away from your ability to be the sovereign commander of your life and live your time, yield none of it.
So we've been talking about Second Half Man for almost 2 years now, right? And I remember when you were writing your book and you had started the Sovereign's Code, and you said, hey, element 1 is going to be a yield no time. And you said, you got to learn how to take command of all your time. And I said, oh, I ain't worried. I command all my time.
Yeah, you do.
You said, okay,
yeah, you do.
What'd you do this week? Tell me what you did. And I said, I did this for this person, and I did this for this person, and I did this for my office, and I did this for my folks, and then I had to run back over here to do this and I told you, gave you the whole laundry list of things that I accomplished that were on my list. And you say, well, how many of those did you do for yourself, or how many of those did you do because it was something that you felt that needed to be accomplished? And I was like, okay, so I don't own any of my time. Everybody else owns my time, right?
I think more importantly, if I can remember that conversation, and you did say those are all the things that you did. Yep. And I asked you, well, how many of all those things that you did were on your Monday morning list already?
Yeah. None of those things were on my Monday morning list.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are just other things that popped up that I had to do, right?
That's the whole point.
That I had to take care of.
Exactly.
All right. So, time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence.
All right.
And none of it.
And in an effort to help the guys that have subscribed or guys that are watching the show, hopefully with some frequency, give us, you're really good at giving us that one move we can make every week. Have you got anything for us that we can take a look at this week?
Yeah. And this one's called my 601 exercise.
I appreciate you giving me credit. Go ahead.
No problem. So starting tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, to carry around with you a little small pocket notebook.
Okay.
Right? Or open a note on your phone if you're that kind of, you don't want to carry a little notebook around. And then every day for the next 5 days, I want you to write down where your hours actually went. Right? So 9 o'clock, tell me what happened between 8 and 9. And if that was, I ate 3 donuts and drank 2 cups of coffee and talked to Billy Bob about how my weekend went, write it down. every single hour to every single night. You have a list of everything you did and just review it. Do that every single day for the next 5 days, right?
Okay.
Just,
Yep.
you know, mark down everything, where your hours went, not where you planned them to go, not where you wanted them to go, not what was scheduled but didn't get done, just what you actually did, right?
Try to make them detailed. Should I make them detailed?
You need to be
or
specific.
Summary?
Be specific. Right. So the 2 hours in a meeting that could have been an email, or the 45 minutes scrolling news that didn't change a damn thing about your day, write it all down and be specific about it. So when you look at it, you'll know what the heck you're looking at, and write it all down. No, without judgment. No, there's no judgment here, right? Because we all do it. So don't say, I'm not gonna write this in my book. Somebody's gonna see it. Just write it down, right?
Just for me. It's just for me. It's just for me.
It's just for you. Because at the end of the 5 days,
I was gonna say, here comes the judgment. Here comes the judgment.
Judge yourself. At the end of the 5 days, read it back, right? The gap between where you thought your time was going and where it actually went, where that time it was you yielded, that gap's, not a failure. It's the map. It shows you exactly where your sovereignty leaks, right? Shows you exactly why your 5 things didn't get done that week. And if you can avoid, stop, end, quit, all of those leaks, those 5 things are going to get done in a whole lot less time than you thought was going to take in the first place. That's it. And there's one more thing I want you to do. I want you to take the time today and download the Teote's Creed, right? Teote's Creed is really the very first thing I wrote when I was writing the Second Half Manifesto. And that Teote's Creed talks about how you yield no time and what areas of your life you need to really concentrate on. You download that creed, put it somewhere where you can see it every morning. It's a 1 minute read. Read that, read it out loud in the morning. Look at it and start your day off right, and put yourself in a mindset and in a frame of mind that's going to help you yield no time. That's it.
Teote's Creed. Teote, time is of the essence, right?
Teote, time is of the essence. That's right.
Time of the essence.
And you need to become a Teote warrior, but that's right.
I definitely need to become a Teote warrior. Okay.
Exactly.
So yield no time, right? Don't forget the 5-day time audit. I'm sure that's probably going to open most of our eyes to see if we're actually putting all our time to very good use. This is the Second Half Man Show, right? I'm 601. I'm here with the founder, Russ Borden, right?
Borden, yeah.
Russ Borden. Russ, any last thoughts? One last thing?
One last thing. Yeah, one truth, right?
One truth. Yep.
The speech didn't change your life because a speech can't. A daily practice can. The question is whether you build one before the window you're watching closes. Do it this week.
All right. Again, this is the Second Half Man Show. I'm 601. Again, I'm here with Russ Borden, the founder. I'll make sure that you tune in every week. We drop a new show on Tuesday. If you liked this week's discussion, please hit that like button. Don't be afraid to subscribe. Russ, what else we got coming? I know there's stuff coming out.
Well, speaking of subscribing, don't be afraid to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, The Dispatch. You can do that at secondhalfman.com/newsletter, secondhalfman.com/newsletter. Get that intelligence in your inbox every Sunday.
Don't forget, also on YouTube, you can go to Second Half Man Show. There's a library of shows there that we've dropped every week since the beginning of the year. We also have some shorts there. We appreciate you guys watching. I'm your host, 601. I'm here with
Russ Borden.
Until next time,
Stay dangerous.